All right, what do you get if you take a Submariner, make everything super angular, and add as many hexagons as you possibly can to the design? Well, if you guessed the coolest affordable dive watch of 2021, you just might be right. And today we're going to be taking a look at the Hexmariner from Revelot. Hey guys, welcome back to Just the Watch. My name's Dave, I live in Japan, and I love to collect affordable watches. And today we're going to be taking a look at a micro brand that is just about to launch a new watch on Kickstarter called the Hexmariner. And the pitch for this design is so kind of pure in its simplicity. It's really, take a Submariner and add a lot of hexagons and angles to it. And starting with that kind of simple concept, Revelot has come up with something that is really a stunning watch, and they're offering it at kind of an insane value. Now, the watches that I have in from them today are both prototypes. These are prototypes that were actually given to me, so I do get to keep the prototypes after the review is done. But because I do get to keep these watches, this is considered a paid promotion. However, other than the watches themselves, I did not receive any compensation from Revelot, nor did they have any input to the content of this review. Now, if you've never heard of Revelot watches, you're not alone. I had never heard of them until they contacted me, so I did a little bit of research to look into them before deciding whether or not to accept the review. And they're actually a pretty interesting brand. They're not a brand new brand. They actually launched a number of years ago, and they're based in Malaysia. So they already have a track record of successfully launching watches on Kickstarter. This is not their first Kickstarter, which is always great to see. That mitigates a lot of the risk, having that kind of a track record. But they've also come out with some really cool watches. They're a little bit outside the norm and consistently seem to offer really good value on them. And when they initially contacted me and told me the price that they were launching at and the specs that they were offering, I was actually kind of shocked and really wanted to take a look at it, even just from a value perspective. But again, once I got these prototypes in hand, I was really kind of blown away with the quality they're putting together and just the kind of cool factor that these watches bring. There's two primary versions. One of these is a stainless steel model that has this kind of 3D geometric dial, and the other is a bronze model that has a meteorite dial. And if you can get in on the super early bird pricing of these on Kickstarter, the stainless steel model is going for $239 and the bronze meteorite is going for $339. And let me tell you the dimensions and specifications of what you're getting for that price. So the watch sports a 42mm diameter case. It is 13mm tall with 22mm lug openings, 48mm lug to lug. As noted, you can get this in either stainless steel or bronze. In either case, it's going to come with 200 meters of water resistance, a Seiko NH35 automatic movement, a fully loomed ceramic bezel, and a sapphire crystal. And the lume on these is absolutely incredible. So again, to get just those specs at like $239 is insane, and even the retail price is still really affordable. So the retail price, not even the Kickstarter price, the retail price they're quoting right now is $339 for the stainless steel and $439 for the bronze meteorite. Very good pricing for what they're offering here based on specs alone. But we're kind of getting used to that. You know, you can get really well spec'd watches for really cheap prices off of AliExpress all day long. So I feel like micro brands really have to bring something more to the table, and that has to be good quality finishing and a cool design. And fortunately, I think Revelot kind of nailed it on both of those instances if these prototypes are any indication of what the final product's going to look like. From a design standpoint, these watches just have such a great look to them. You know, if you kind of squint, they do remind you of a Submariner. They have that Submariner silhouette, but if you take even more than a passing glance, you're going to see a ton of really unique features that they put into this. And again, the kind of the whole idea of this is really to make it a more angular design. And when I got these watches in hand, I think the first thing I thought when I saw it is just they have a ton of light play. The light reflects off of every aspect of the watch in really unique ways, probably most notably in the crazy geometric dial on the stainless steel version, but it also carries over into the polished ceramic bezel, into the polished edges on the cases, and all of the angles that they've kind of added into the design. It just, even the brushed areas, because they're so angular, they catch the light in interesting ways. And no matter what angle you look at this watch from, you're going to get some cool light play with it. And it really is a fun and beautiful piece. It might be a little too far out there for a lot of people, especially on the stainless steel version. It's interesting, the meteorite dial is actually the much more tame of the two, getting them in hand, but both are really cool. Now, as mentioned, these are prototypes and there are going to be a number of changes. I'll try and note the important ones as I go through the review, but I'll also leave just a list of those changes down in the description if you want to check that out. Also, before we dive in further, let me remind you guys to check out the t-shirt store. I've got some new designs there, including this one of the Amphibia. You can get this in a hoodie, sweatshirt, or a t-shirt or long sleeve t-shirt. I'm actually wearing it on a regular sweatshirt because I got a sample in to try it out. I'm not sure if I'm going to be selling the sweatshirts on the store or not. If you want to see sweatshirts without the hoods, let me know down below. Also, in the store, I'm starting to sell a couple of watches. These are mostly watches that I purchased for review that I'm not going to keep, but I'm also looking to add some affordable JDM watches that I can find to make them more available to some of you guys who have a hard time getting your hands on them. So make sure you check out the store to see what we got there. Anyways, let's get back to the Revelot Hexmariner, and I want to talk about some of these design things that really stood out to me and things I really enjoyed about the watch. Starting with the case on this watch, again, the overall form factor is very reminiscent of the Submariner, but you have a lot of sharp angles that have been added to it, both in the overall structure of the case and in the beveling and faceting of the watch. You get some clearly defined areas of brushing with some nice high polished bevels going along the tops of the watch. The borders between the high polished area and the brushed areas are very sharp and distinct, and that allows a lot of that light to really reflect off in cool ways. On the top of the watch, you have a ceramic bezel insert that's fully loomed and high polished, again, really catching the light in interesting ways, and I think they've done a great job at coloring these ceramic bezels. They have a nice saturation to it. It just looks great and very premium. And yeah, kind of surprising to see a bezel of this quality on a watch in this price range. The bezel itself has some good action, but that is something that they've said they're going to improve. You got a nice polished coin edge on it, again, adding more reflectivity there. Right now, the bezel action has a good resistance, a nice click to it, and no backplay, but it does feel a little bit light, and so I think that's what they're trying to improve, is to give it a more substantial feel when you turn it. And then for the crystal, they've gone with a sapphire crystal. So great scratch resistance there across the whole top with the ceramic and sapphire combination. And then looking down onto the dial, particularly on the hands and the markers, those are done in rose gold in both the colorways that I have. And they are really well done. On all the markers, they're high polished. They are hexagons all the way around with elongated hexagons at 12, 3, and 9. And the high polished bases on those hexagons, again, really catches the light, really reflects. It'll make them jump out and stand out, make them very visible in certain lighting. Now, both watches also feature a nicely integrated date at 6 o'clock. And that date will completely take the place of the marker, so you are going to be absent one marker in the dark, as we'll see when we get to that. The hands, they've gone with a central brushing and then sort of beveled, high polished edges, again, giving you these little glints of golden light kind of flashing back up at you when you check the time. I believe one of the changes they're going to make is to the brushwork on the hands. I think they said they're going to change that up a little bit, so check the description down below for a full description of that. I do really like the handset that they've used on this. It's really well finished, but also just the overall shape of it is really cool. Again, they've played into that hexagon theme, and it's kind of this elongated hexagon in the handset. I'm really happy that they didn't try and incorporate the Mercedes style hands into this, given that the inspiration was the Submariner. I think that these hands look much better, and again, give the watch a lot more character that's more consistent with the design. And then they've gone and thrown more hexagons in with the second hand. So there's a hexagon on the counterbalance and a hexagon on the tip. The tip is loomed. Another interesting thing is that they have added some engravings to the rehaut of both the stainless steel and the bronze version. So, you know, on a Rolex Submariner, you get the Rolex written along that ring at the top of the dial. Here they've done etching, but they haven't done the brand name. All they've done is just the 60-minute markers. So it's very faint. You can't really see it too well, but it's a really nice touch. And again, there's so many of these little details that go into here that really, I think, kind of add up to make this watch something special. There's obviously been a lot of care and thought into basically every aspect of the design. Now, the dials are where things get really interesting. Starting with the stainless steel model, you get a really geometric dial that is very deeply, I don't know if it's embossed or how they exactly structure it, but it has a very 3D effect. This is not a flat dial at all. It's not an optical illusion. There are really these geometric structures incorporated into the dial, and it catches the light in a lot of really insane ways. In some angles, the dial will almost disappear, but then in other angles, it will catch the light in such a way that it just absolutely overwhelms the design, even to the point of making legibility an issue in some lighting. So that's one possible area of concern here. However, in most lighting, that's not a problem. Moving over to the bronze option, they give you a meteorite dial. which in some ways is a little bit more familiar than this geometric pattern because a lot of watch manufacturers have done meteorite dials. And I think the meteorite still pairs very well with the rest of the design and really allows the markers and the hands and the other elements of the dial to kind of really take center stage. So it's kind of a cool option to have there. As far as band and bracelet options, on the stainless steel, they give you a very solid stainless steel bracelet, kind of an oyster style, but again, with lots of angles added to it. The clasp itself is a little bit smaller than some that I've seen, and yet it still maintains 3 micro adjusts and operates very smoothly. Now the bracelet isn't quite finished yet. The link that connects from the bracelet to the clasp is just a temporary one. They're going to add one in that is more integrated into the design that'll flow a lot smoother. Now both watches also come with a silicone strap. In the case of the bronze one, it only comes on the silicone strap. And that strap is also very high quality. It's got a nice thickness to it, a really good solid feel, and it doesn't seem to pick up as much dust as most silicone straps that I've seen. On the top of the strap, you get that same geometric pattern that's on the dial of the stainless steel version. So nice to see that kind of pairing there. And on the bronze version, they're giving you a special buckle. So they're not giving you a bronze buckle for cost saving measures. They're going with the stainless steel bezel. But what they've done is that they've coated it in a color that matches the bezel of the watch that you get. So kind of cool to see some color matching going on there and an interesting way to save a little bit of money. Flipping over to the back of the watch, you have a see-through case back, but the see-through case back has been printed over with this kind of pattern that I think incorporates the Revelot logo. And this being a Seiko NH35 inside, I think that's kind of a cool way to go. It's more interesting than just seeing a Seiko NH35 for those of us who are very familiar with it. But if you're not, and you still want to know that it's a mechanical watch, you still can catch a little glimpse of the movement. So I think that's kind of a cool way to do it. On the wrist, both of these watches are very comfortable and well balanced, regardless of whether you're wearing it on the silicone strap or the stainless steel bracelet. I found them both to be very comfortable and really enjoyed wearing them out and about. Now, one of the things that jumped out to me almost immediately about this watch was the lume. It is really bright and there's a lot of it on there. You're getting fairly large loomed indexes, loomed hands, and a fully loomed ceramic bezel. So this watch just looks absolutely spectacular after dark, and the lume lasts for a very long time as well. Now the lume was so bright that I wanted to challenge it against some of the best loomed watches in my collection, so I paired it up against my Axios Ironclad and my Seiko Samurai. And after 1 hour, the Revelot was holding even with the Seiko Samurai, so it earns a J score of 10. And this watch matches Seiko when it comes to lume, and in some way even exceeds it in that they've included a fully loomed bezel as well. Now before we wrap up, a couple of potential drawbacks and concerns with this watch. First off, as mentioned before, the dial on the stainless steel version can be distracting. If legibility is a really high priority for you, that might be something to consider. And I think it kind of speaks into the overall philosophy behind these watches. While they are very rugged with the scratch resistance from the ceramic and sapphire and the 200 meters of water resistance, screw down crown, solid metal cases, Revelot doesn't try to hide the fact that these are meant to be like dress divers. They're meant to be a little bit flashy, a little bit sporty, something fun that you can wear whether you're in the water or out of the water. But if you're looking strictly for a tool watch, this might not be what you're interested in. Another potential concern is that when I got into the macro shots, particularly on the meteorite dial, I did notice some little flecks of metal and some dust underneath the glass, which was very concerning. So I actually contacted Revelot and asked them about that. But they actually mentioned that one that they sent me, they had opened up themselves to inspect. Since it was a prototype, they wanted to inspect the hands and things. So they suspect that what happened is that when they opened it up, they allowed the dirt and the stuff to get underneath the glass. So that's a little bit of a bummer, but that also kind of brings in another potential concern in that I am reviewing prototypes here. So there are going to be some changes between what I have here and what you're going to see in the final production. So mostly what I'm sharing is going to be relevant for the overall design and things, but it's not necessarily representative of exactly what you're going to get should you order from the Kickstarter campaign. But that said, if Revelot can properly implement the changes that they're planning while maintaining the same level of quality and finishing that they've got in these prototypes, I think they're going to have something really special on their hands. And again, still offering it at kind of a crazy price. Anyways, that's all I've got for you guys for today. As always, appreciate you guys watching and love to hear from you what you think about these watches. And if you've had any experience with Revelot and some of their other watches in the past, definitely drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you think of the brand. Again, don't forget to check out the t-shirt store / sweatshirt store / watch shop. I'll leave a link to that down in the description below as well. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.